So I would like to invite on the stage Liliya Akhtyamova, data scientist at ICIMS, that will talk about, or her session is entitled Show Me Your MVP. Please.
Yeah, great. Hello, everyone. I would like to jump straight to bandwagon and start off my presentation with asking questions to the audience. I'm just curious how many data science practitioners we have in the audience who already work as a data science. Oh, okay, not many. Don't worry, anyone else would also benefit from this talk. And who already work as data scientists, how often you were like, not how often, like in general, have you ever been tasked with building MVP? Or you, maybe your manager, you gave a task to build MVP. Okay, a few people. Okay, maybe after today I define in my words MVP, others would also say, oh yeah, I was also building MVP. Okay, great. So we have something to cover. And what is MVP? So I'm going to cover how to learn, how to own the product and create interactive demo without front-end development skills. Okay, and quickly about me. My name is Liliya Akhtyamova, as was introduced. I'm data scientist and /ML engineer, or you can call it full stack data scientist at ICIMS. And before I did PhD in biomedical natural language processing in nice city of Dublin in Ireland, where I'm currently living. And welcome to Ireland. And I also got involved this year with mentorship and volunteering at a nonprofit organization called Women in AI. And this is a global community of aspired women. And here you can see, if a pointer works. Yeah, it's a bit can see probably. So you can check the page, and you will probably find a link to a global Women in AI community. And please get involved and help us there. And also, I started recently to speak at different meetups, and it was my sort of giving back to the community. And before I go through agenda, let me quickly describe a background story and why this talk happened. Last year at my company, we got to work on a project where we had to build. So my company, ICIMS, I didn't introduce. It's a company that builds software for HR profession, for companies to attract, engage, hire, and advance their most important asset, their people. And whenever you go on the career sites, you probably use our product when you apply for a job. And last year, we worked on our new product, which is Opportunity Marketplace. And where a person within the company can visually plan and design their next career steps. And as a result of a few months' work, we built dozens of different models, and that are combined in a pipeline. And we didn't really have ground truth data, so we needed somehow to evaluate the results and also choose the best models. And here the question was how to do it properly and how build a system for our recruiters to evaluate the quality of results, because it's quite niche domain, and for us data scientists it's quite hard to understand if results are meaningful or not. And so this is a bit of background, and what I'm going to cover here is MVP, what is minimum viable product within data science, and also when UI is needed based on my personal experience, and also how to build appealing UI, and also I will talk a bit about user feedback and testing adaptive machine learning through web applications, where you as a data science can build a testing platform. and how integrate user feedback and host applications in a cloud. Okay, so quickly again about who we are. Like, it's not a philosophical question, but who we are as a data scientist, like within our companies. And if speaking formally, it's a person who gets data and transforms data into some sort of insights that can be expressed in the form of a model, charts, tables, textual data, or endpoints. But also, to some degree, we can encompass all these roles. Product managers, because we work with data, we know our data better, and sometimes we define new products or features based on insights we got from data. We can also sometimes be developer advocates, especially when there are no technical product managers in our team. And we can also be machine learning engineers or software developers, because especially when you write batch jobs and you want to write a clean code, you want to cover it with good tests and that it was maintainable and maintain it. And this is where good software development practices really help. But on the right side, yeah, pointer is not really working. On the right side, it's some sort of expression that we can also be, it's called research data scientists more often. We can work on some state-of-the-art stuff, and where results can sometimes be quite unpredictable or interesting. As you can see, like DALL-E generated like a Ninja Turtle holding a magical head. So head is here, head is here, but not holding head. So no offense, DALL-E is great and the development there is great, but just need to understand that it's state of the art and there's still a lot of work to do. Okay, so as a Christopher Columbus, we are tasked with a project, and the product manager asks, like, show us your results, how good they are. And we say easy, and how easy, with low-code Python frameworks to build UI, which I will show you. And okay, so what is MVP, just quickly? So MVP, as I described, it's minimum viable product. It's the term came from a startup world, where with a limited budget at time, you had to quickly build a prototype of a product and show it to stakeholders. And does it always require building UI? Here, people can argue, but I think no. Even like something we do in our daily job, is building Jupyter notebooks, graphs, and documentation, and it also can stand for some sort of MVP. And but what UI does really, it brings the hidden abstracts to life and allows stakeholders to interact and to play with results and change outcomes based on input. And here's a few criteria which can help to define when UI is useful to build. The first one is when machine learning analytics product design is not established yet. So I don't know, product manager gave you data, told like, we never explored this data, please do something with it. And you build prototyping, but the next step after building charts and graphs, especially when your model requires user input, would be building UI. And also when outcomes of data modeling are not trivial, it also can very often happen. And the third one, when results require eyeballing, especially when web interface is not ready yet. And it's often also very true. Web developers have tickets for building web interface in their maybe in a few sprints, and but you still want to demonstrate and start testing your solution. And the fourth criteria is when different solutions are competing. Again, when you build dozens of models, you want to choose the best one. And there are no established ground truth data. And when the machine learning product is multi-compound, again, it was our case. We had one model results fed into another model, and then fed into another component, which may or may not be machine learning based, but it's it's a staged model. And the last one, it will benefit from user feedback, which I will show you. You can also add and invite people in your company to provide feedback and form ground truth data based on this feedback. OK, here's a list of most popular Python low-code application frameworks. And they're called low code because if no low code and you want to go and do a proper web interface, you probably want to learn web development skill and learn Flask. But Flask is quite, someone who developed is quite large and it requires a good bit of time to learn it. But if you want to prototype quickly, the best three tools currently are, the first one is Plotly Dash. And I used it previously a lot, and it has, it's the oldest one, and it has the largest support community and a really wide range of widgets. And for my use case, I didn't find an easy way to add user feedback functionality, and some other widgets I needed were like not straightforward. So I started looking at other solutions, and I saw Streamlit, which is 2 years older. So Streamlit was developed in 2019. And it's supported by Hugging Face, the largest community and the hub for machine learning models, especially for transformers. And it's less verbose than Plotly Dash. And the main advantage of it for me was that it supports concurrency because it's based on a library which called Tornado. It's a web interface, and it supports asynchronous calls very well. And it has also a cache support. And yeah, there are some disadvantages, of course, and the main one is that because it's simpler, less verbose, it has its own style, which is less intuitive than Plotly Dash, and it requires some time to learn its own syntax. And the last one is Gradio. It's the newest one. It's again supported by Hugging Face, and it's rapidly developing currently. So if you're starting and you're looking into web interface, I would suggest start with Gradio, see if it has everything you need, and then if it doesn't, go up this list. OK, let me show quickly you an example of the app. I was not allowed to use our real solution, internal solution, but I replaced it with book recommendations, which is has almost same functionality. So books repository was taken from oh, forgot the website. But there are 50K top books, and yeah, so with rating, with title, description. And here we enter that we want to find book about conference trip. I'm not sure it exists, but showed some results, which maybe. And also we can enter genre for books, and you see it allows, it supports autocomplete for tags. And here we see the journey to the east, the long haul. Yeah, so it displayed for us some book recommendations. So that's some basic functionality, and then we can enter another tag, we can remove, and get other recommendations. And let's move to under the hood. So to create a Streamlit application, you first load your data. And as it was pointed out, Streamlit allows you to cache massive data samples and results of expensive computations. And it was really handy for us because we had dozens of different models, which we didn't want to load each time a user executes a query, and also large data sets. And here you can see this is supports with yeah, so this is called stcache with for example, like it's an old way of caching our data. And here you, oops, okay. So this is an old way of caching data, and here we hash function and something we don't cache. Because if you try to cache your tokenizer or your model or a dictionary, it will give you an error message. So we exclude them from caching. And the newer caching is supported by EST experimental memo and singleton. And the developers claim that it's much faster. I didn't do benchmarking, but they showed benchmarking, and oh, I didn't put this link to benchmarks. Anyway, so try experimental memo and singleton for caching. Memo for caching data, and singleton for caching everything else. After we load our data, here are the main blocks of our program in a bit of simplified way. So here we have a sidebar where we can, just with a single line of code, define select boxes and check boxes. And then in the main part, based on the selections, if we click submit button, we'll go to main part of our program where we produce our book recommendations. And here is the why it's not intuitive. It's because of this session state. And I will briefly describe to you what it is. Session state helps to control the execution flow of your program. And for example, you can define it as a state, press first button. First, you initialize it with a false value. And then when you go submit button, you define it as a true. And you put this it's in the or statement. And next time you go, you click some button which shouldn't impact the results of your program. You just go straight to producing book recommendations, and you don't need each time to click your submit button. So it can be really useful, and it's something that is good to learn and use. And here's we have this checkbox, for example, on change. We change this evaluation button, and when we click evaluation mode, we see here in this program, it sends the state press first button to false. So it means that the program will ask us again to click a submit button. This is the main that need to know about session state, but of course maybe it's not so clear from this particular example. I just advise probably to go and try execute on a small samples and see its result. And here's the enabling user input next part. And here we see it's again very simple. Text input box allows to put your query. And then tags also simply allowed from this. And here we see generous taxonomy suggestions. And this is what allows us to perform autocomplete. Again, very simple. And here's another feature that was very useful for our project. It was interactive table widget. It's when we can display, let me play it. Yeah, so we click show table with available books. And it will display for us all the books in our book repository we have. And then we select some book, Animal Farm, for example, and we want to find similar books. So it enters automatically genres, which you can optionally change. And here we should get so we get our book recommendations here. So quite good, based just on the abstract for that book. Quite good recommendations. And here, how to do it. So again, pretty simple. So you need to import grid options builder and put configuration as you want it. Configure selection. Multiple checkboxes are allowed. And here we define what our input. It's our table, input data frame. And that's it. So ST data frame allows you to display your data frame on in UI. And when some user clicked some checkbox, it will go to selected, and the selected rows would be like your anything that you selected in your checkboxes. And you can do anything with, you want with that. And so that's it. And the next part is feedback collection. And we can say this by words of Benjamin Franklin: by failing to prepare, you're preparing to fail. And what we really want to achieve with feedback collection is to spot edge cases and problems with your outputs of your models before users or your customers of your product will spot them. And it's useful in two cases: when there are multiple machine learning models in the pipeline, and there are no or limited ground truth data. And that's already, yes, a bit covered. And here we can see how it's added. Again, we click here, evaluation mode. And here you enter your credentials that we know who provided feedback. We then can ask a question to that person, why he provided that feedback, or she. So again, we enter our query. And we enter genres, so conference, trip, adventure, and we get book recommendations. And yeah, it's a bit long list. And then we will have additional panel with feedback. So you can provide any sort of textual feedback, or maybe you want to ask your whoever, for example, for recruiters in my company, we wanted them to point out which predictions they don't agree with. So put numbers or IDs of predictions. So here we can see it's like we dump this as a JSON object, but you can also dump it in your database. It's our work in progress that you can query, for example, for particular feedback for user who provided feedback. So yes, this is how it can be implemented. And again, very easy. From implementation point, not so much of code. You just define your buttons as it's seen on the right side, display and get feedback function. So you define your buttons up and down finger. And then depending on what is clicked, you send the feedback. And here's like we see this feedback as a JSON object or dictionary object. And then you write to your output file, you append each feedback JSON. And yes, so that's mainly it. And here, yeah, you can define an evaluation logs folder where you can store your feedback in the main block and send your feedback. So this is the last part is just one slide: web application development, deployment. And if you don't eager to learn like cloud development, or it's just very easy to start and run and to use your application, you just spin up a virtual machine on a cloud within cloud provider that your company uses. And then activate TeamUX, where you can run your program in the background. And with this line, of course, streamlit run application.py, you can start running your program. And it's also advisable to Dockerize your application, that it could be used for easily transferred to another cloud, or share it with other data scientists in your team. And container orchestration, I put this like with like may not be necessary. If you just it would be just internal application, not many users would use it, so it may not be necessary to do this part. So in this presentation, we covered the concept of MVP in relation to data scientists, why and when it's needed to be done, and how to do it and build appealing UI, and how to gather user feedback and evaluate the quality of results. And finally, a bit of parts on a web application deployment of your app. So my call to action to you would be start using modern web applications, web application frameworks to display your model results, and leverage your company cloud provider and VPN for access to hosting apps in the cloud for internal company use. And the third one, add user feedback capability to start collecting feedback from domain experts. And finally, get stakeholder buy-in with early demos and Q&A of results. So my words would be just own the product, take responsibility for your results, and help your business or your company to thrive. Thank you very much. Any questions?
We have time for maybe 1 or 2 questions. Does anyone have any question?
Yeah.
Yes, please. The microphone. Thanks.
Thank you. Ras, thank you. The question is, thank you for talk. What role, which person or role use this low-code instrument? It is special developers, or it's team members, regular team members? Thank you.
Regular, I just didn't hear the last part. Can you repeat, please?
Is it a special team who builds MVP, do you have, or it is regular team members build these prototypes?
Yeah, it's regular team members. That was the point of the talk, that any data scientist, so I presume that a scientist without skills in front-end development can do it with just a few lines of code. You build in UI, you show it, you demonstrate, you gather user feedback.
Thank you. Any more questions? All right. Directly from Ireland, please give it up to Liliya Akhtyamova.
Thank you.
Thank you.